Hello, team players. I'm back with 20-Sided Adventures here to talk about the synergies of our Monster Mash party.
How's it going, everyone?
So, I think we're going to start with my Headless Knight build. I think the main thing is, it's a commander, so we're going to need to talk about the tactics. I think the main ones are going to be the strike hard, since pretty much every build in this party, other than the Mind Flayer, can be in melee if it wants to be. So demoralizing charge is also very good, and slip and sizzle is very good for all the spellcasters in this party.
Yeah, those two things are some of the best features that I think the commander has to let someone take the opportunity when it presents itself for whichever you might have. Either the caster's in a good spot or you have a great melee ready to go.
Yep. And I went with the pet build for this commander because it's a headless horseman, so it's gonna have a horse.
I know when we did all our commander videos, you hadn't really looked into that one too much. What'd you think of the pet after building one?
After building one, I think it's significantly better than a lot of the other commanders I had built because you're guaranteed to have someone who can follow your tactics or something that can follow your tactics. And if you build your commander around the party as well, then you have multiple people that can follow your tactics, and that really helps.
Yeah, I think one of the best parts about the pet is if you are taking a commander maybe into a drop-in table like at a con or something, the pet commander, you at least for sure have someone that your tactics are going to work for. So
Yeah, right, exactly. To be spooky, I did go with the ghost dedication because I feel like Headless Haunt just fits this build so well. I mean, it's a headless horseman, so it's gonna have a head that's off, And some of the feats that Headless Haunt actually leads to are very good, I think. Like at high levels, you can go with Ghostly Grasp, so you can actually do like tripping and stuff with corporal creatures, and you can also take Fling Head to frighten creatures. And there's quite a bit of good feats for Ghost now that the new book has come out.
yeah, I was surprised Ghost got some love in there. It was kind of a
Yeah,
strange thing to find.
yeah. What's really cool is, honestly, even if you're riding your animal companion as a commander, there's a lot of feats that have there's a lot of tactics that have the brandish trait, so you can't take advantage of them, but you can at least take advantage of them a little bit if you're riding your animal companion, because the ones that let you move, your animal companion is moving, not you. So
Right.
if you're riding your animal companion, then you're able to move with it, which is pretty nice, actually.
Yeah, definitely helps with the action economy of that.
Yep, exactly. All right, I think we're gonna move on. We've covered basically everything with the headless horseman. So now I think you're gonna move. We're gonna move on and let you talk about your banshee build.
Alright, so the first one I built, which I took kind of a thematic roleplay stance of what goes with a Headless Horseman, so I found the Banshee was in accompaniment in a lot of Celtic mythology, so the closest I could find to something Banshee-like without just taking another ghost was the Fetchling Ancestry,
Yeah.
which is going to give us some kind of cool dark vision and some aspects there.
Yeah.
And then we went with the Ancestor Mystery to kind of lean into the Banshee's role of summoning the dead and hearkening that your doom is at hand. But what we took in, the feats that we took, so Oracular Warning I took so we can give the whole party a boost on initiative to make sure we're setting the tone for the fight, especially with having a commander being able to make sure we're ahead. Any benefit we can have to being ahead in initiative
Right.
is a big help for the team.
Mm-hmm.
Also, since the Oracle can kind of go both directions on this, I took a more melee-focused Oracle so that we could take advantage of Strike Hard when the opportunity presented itself, or it could cast. So kind of both directions on that. So picking up Toughness just to make sure we had a little bit extra hit points. And then the Bespell Strike, so we can add some damage when we have cast a spell and are striking. And then also with that steady spell casting to make sure we're not getting interrupted by any attacks of opportunity we might be incurring by being in that mix. lots of intimidation standpoint, so I went hard into intimidate, just that whole being a spooky party. So all of the intimidation feeds down the line: battle cry, scared to death, intimidating prowess.
Yeah, the good thing about that is, once you demoralize a creature, it's only immune to your intimidation. You're demoralized. Everybody else can still demoralize it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So having that overlap in a party isn't a bad thing, because you can kind of chain them together to make sure you're keeping that fear on someone.
Yeah. The other thing I forgot to mention about the Headless Horseman is we did go Orc to give us quite a bit more survivability, and with the harm spells that your Banshee has, that's going to make it even harder to take down the commander.
Yeah, when I first built this, I still have heal loaded up on mine. I forgot to switch them because so many of the party are using the undead archetypes, but harm as a signature spell to make sure you can also be the healer, some melee help, and then some offensive and debuffing magic was kind of the route I went with the Oracle.
If you're using this party though, you are going to want to have both heal and harm spells, because I think the only one that uses the undead, I think only 2 of them actually use the undead archetypes, and then the other 2 are kind of just, they're living creatures, but they're spooky.
Yeah, and so an interesting way to get around that with a spontaneous caster is you can take signature spell heal at one level and signature spell harm at another, so you get both throughout all of your level ups.
Yep, right, exactly. Okay, yeah, anything else you want to say about your Banshee?
I mean, it's a pretty large mix of healing, offense, and a little bit of debuffing, plus being able to melee. So I made a pretty versatile Oracle to where if it needs to stand back and be the healer, it can. If it needs to throw some devastating magic down, it has the option for it. And if it needs to get in and mix it up in melee, it's got tools for that as well.
Yep. Okay, great. We should talk about the Oracle Curse.
So basically, what that curse means is the ghosts of the ancestors, so the different spirits that like the Banshee has summoned to the grave still kind of haunt the Banshee, and so as that curse bounce increases by using different oracular abilities, we start to load up the clumsy conditions. That could be a detriment to the melee side of this build, so you're going to have to balance falling back and doing that casting as you're building up your curse-bound state.
And then refocusing a lot to get that down, especially if you're using your focus spells a lot. Anyway, okay, I think now we can move on to my Mind Flayer build. So I did do a Mind Flayer build way back when the Psychic playtest was out, but I figured for this, it's probably a good idea, since we're doing spooky stuff, to do a Mind Flayer. So we went with the Flesh Warp, because that's the only one that really fits. And we went with the Shape Flesh Warp because, Mind Flayers are pretty resistant to mental effects. And Deep Vision because Dark Vision. Dark Vision is always good. And then for the Conscious Mind, we went with Silent Whisper because that gives us all of our mind-affecting spells. The amp for Message is ridiculous. I mean, that really combines pretty well with the commander, because the commander can give out extra reactions. So if the amp for Message is used, then somebody can use their reaction to like move, or at higher levels even like strike. And then the commander gives an extra reaction for their tactics. So you're basically getting two things that when it's not even your turn, which is pretty ridiculous, actually.
Yeah, I think especially because most, at least my 2, don't have a lot of reactions on their own. So
yeah.
Being able to take normal actions as reactions granted from the other parts of the party are gonna really pay off.
Yeah, and the amp for Daze just makes them weak to our mental effects, which really helps as well. Because we're gonna pretty much want to take pretty much constantly mental effects here. We are playing a Mind Flayer after all. I went with Precise Discipline for my subconscious mind because, Mind Flayers are intelligence based. And the Calculate Threats really helps with our AC and reflex saves. That's something we can do if we need a little more defense. Psychic Rapport, since we're not charisma based, but we want to be doing the fear thing, This will give us a little bonus if we want to do deception, diplomacy, or intimidation, or perception checks to sense motive. So that's very good. Especially since we're not charisma based. I usually go with canny acumen for our lowest save, which in this case is going to be fortitude. Oh, and homing beacon. Homing beacon is very good because if, let's say, enemies want to hide from us, we're going to have the ability to like sense their thoughts and stuff because, you know, mind flayer. So having a way to like point them out to our allies is very good. Since we're going to be able to, we won't know exactly where they are, but we'll know enough to be able to target them at least. And then once we target them with something, we can use that amp to be like, oh, there they are.
Absolutely. And I imagine with all the fear and spooky things we're dropping, stuff's going to be running a lot.
Yeah. I did go with uncanny awareness as well as thought sense because, you know, uncanny awareness is for the like golems and stuff, you know, that are immune to the thought sense. And thought sense is for the enemies that aren't moving, so uncanny awareness won't really work on them.
I was going to say, definitely covers all of our bases on that for being able to find those hard-to-find enemies.
The other thing I went with was inertial barrier, so we can give a target of a spell. Like if we're doing a mental buff spell, we can give somebody damage resistance. Resistance to physical damage, which is very good. Or ourselves. And then Gaping Flesh. Gaping Flesh is amazing. Because if somebody does decide to melee attack us, then we can make them sickened. And that's for as long as they are within close range of us, within melee reach. They can't get rid of it as long as they're in melee reach, so that's very good.
So they still keep it if they leave melee, though? But then
Yes. Yeah, it works like normal then, but they can't get rid of it as long as they're in melee reach of us.
That's pretty good. Especially Sicken's such a great debuff because to remove it, it takes an action away, which is always... And it's made it even worse.
Yeah,
they have to pass
right.
Too, so Sicken is a great debuff.
Oh, it's a fantastic debuff. Gaping Flesh is such a good feat. The only other thing I took was Impose Order because we can get average damage on some of our mental spells, so that if the target is like resistant to mental damage, then we can always get a decent amount of damage. We don't have to roll, we just get average damage, which is nice when they have resistance to mental effects.
Yeah, for sure. Because that, especially if you're fighting a bunch of undead that don't have much in the brain department.
Although I think most undead are immune to mental effects.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. They would just not take any then.
Yeah, right. But there are plenty of other creatures that have resistant to mental effects, so that's why we took this. It's something we can take because we have some precise discipline, so, you know, I figured why not. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it for the Psychic, unless you have something to say.
Well, I mean, we have full videos covering each of them, right? So it's really how we plan these to work with the squad, so.
Yeah. All right. I think we're going to end with your Thaumaturge build, your Mummy Thaumaturge.
Yeah, so last component of this team is the Thaumaturge, which is also a mummy. They start as a human because I really wanted access to a couple early-level Thaumaturge feats. I kind of feel the level 1 and 2 Thaumaturge feats are like really some of the best for the class, and then everything just kind of builds on those later. So we really wanted Natural Ambition to be able to pick up Scroll Thaumaturgery.
Yep.
And then the class feat of Diverse Lore, so they can be the know-everything in the party.
I mean, Scroll Thaumaturgy is a very good feat because it allows you to cast basically anything in the entire game, and spell-wise.
Especially when you take its subsequent feats that let you generate scrolls as just part of your daily activity. It really lets you build into that. And another interesting thing, from the commander, the sizzle, snap and sizzle, doesn't actually require a cast a spell activity. It just says to cast a spell. So if your Thaumaturge already has the scroll in their hand, I don't see any reason they shouldn't be able to cast it like anyone else would.
Right, yeah. The other thing is, Scroll Thaumaturgy really fits a mummy because it'd be able to pull off. Your wrappings could be scrolls. That'd be very cool.
Absolutely. And then for our first implement, we took Regalia because it is the buff your party and make them better implement. Out the gate, you're just getting that fear reduction and a bonus to fear, which we would have in the Commander's Aura, at least the bonus, so that kind of overlaps. But once it gets to Adept, you start handing out a +2 status bonus to damage rolls to anyone that's around you when you're doing your melee stuff.
Yeah, and don't forget about Implement's Empowerment. Tons of people forget about that.
Yeah, where you're just getting a straight bonus to your damage.
Yeah, that's one of my tips in my Thaumaturge tips video. Don't forget about that.
Yeah, I actually am playing one on a once-a-month Saturday game, and it's in Foundry, so it does all the math for you, but it's so often that I forget it's unchecked for some reason, and I just don't realize it, and I'm missing out on damage, so...
Yeah.
Definitely a worthwhile call out.
Yeah.
And like we mentioned, the Mummy dedication at 2, which I don't take a whole lot from it, but leaned into a melee damage aspect that comes in from later aspects of the Mummy, which we can get there, I think, in a little bit. Again, leaning into intimidation on this one, so intimidating prowess, intimidating glare. Definitely built this Thaumaturge to kind of be the melee fighter working alongside the commander, and then the scroll aspects to cast when the opportunity presents itself. I think really for both of these for me was being versatile, so if we needed casting, both could cast. If we needed melee, both could melee. Esoteric Warden to get a little bit more defense, since we don't have a great healer. Like the Oracle can heal, but they're not primary for it, so a little bit more defense from Esoteric Warden.
Yeah.
And then Unmistakable Lore is an interesting feat. That's a general feat that you can take to combine with your recall knowledge attempts from Esoteric Lore, assuming you take diverse Esoterica above.
Yeah, and don't forget, recall knowledge is important for a Thaumaturge, because, it's not always going to work. Your exploit vulnerability isn't always going to work. And, the other thing is you can find out a lot of stuff that exploit vulnerability won't give you, like the lowest saving throw, for example.
Second implement, we took Weapon, again, because trying to be a little more melee focused, so just to get the benefits of that. Incredible Initiative, again, just trying to be high up on initiative. And then 8 sympathetic vulnerabilities, so our personal antithesis can now apply across same creatures. That just helps our action economy out if all the same creatures don't have the same weaknesses. And that's mainly, again, just to free up the action economy. So if you have multiple creatures in a fight that don't have a mortal weakness, you only have to personal antithesis them once.
Yeah, right, yeah. Even if they're different creatures, as long as they have the same weaknesses.
Right, if they have the same mortal weakness, that also AoEs it. But the other important thing this does, if it's the same creature, usually personal antithesis only works against the person you used it on. But if there's like 4 goblins now, the personal antithesis works on all 4 of them with that feat.
Right.
So it does, and there's certain points depending on their weakness. Personal antithesis can actually be better than their mortal weakness once you get high enough level. So keeping an eye on that math is also an important thing to do on the Thaumaturge.
Right. And then at level 9 you went with Aeromancer, right?
Yeah,
Flying is never bad, right?
And I just remember like the Mummy when he turns into sand and he's flying around, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Then speaking of the Mummy at 10, a Cursed Touch is where I really wanted the Mummy from, which a Cursed Touch itself isn't great. You get to melee attack with your fist, and it does some void reoccurring damage.
What it's really for is the other feat you can take where it applies to your weapon that you're using.
Yep, that's coming up at 12. That's what I really wanted, was to pull that into the Thaumaturge weapon implement.
Yeah, And then, I'm not familiar with Exuma's Awakening. What does that do?
So it's a rare, and it's supposed to have a campaign requirement, so you gotta talk to your GM if they're cool with that or not. But you just get 2 cantrips, basically, and you can use them as an 8 spells.
Okay. That's cool.
And as a Thaumaturge, just stacking up the ability to cast magic when you're not a caster just amuses me, so... Also, Exuma's Awakening sounded super mummy Egyptian themed, so I just kind of had to grab it.
Right. And then Channel Raw is where your Cursed Touch applies to your weapons.
Yep, and that's where that really comes to pay off. So you've got the implement benefits from the Thaumaturge, and now you're also stacking that persistent void damage. I guess we talk about the third implement being the amulet.
Okay, yeah. You know, that's the amulet is always good because that's an AC bonus.
Yeah, AC bonus plus you get a reaction to remove some damage from an ally. So, you know, again, not having a real dedicated tanking class or healing class in this party, anything you can do to spread that damage around is helpful. If
you guys enjoyed this video, we do both have a few of Thaumaturge's videos. One of them's on screen, the one I did, but you can also check out all the Thaumaturge videos over on 20-Sided Adventures channel. He goes into a lot more detail than I do. I just have a few tips for you guys. But if you want to check out 20-Sided Adventures channel, it is in the description below, as well as other ways to support me as a creator.
I was going to say, thanks again for the invite. Really have enjoyed doing these with you and making these groups.
Remember, guys, teamwork is vital. It helps us solve problems.